today I'm going to show you how to make this cup. It has a curved bottom and straight sides, and I'm going to hand build it. Okay, so here we go. First thing we're going to do is take a little piece of clay and we're going to make the bottom. I've pre-made this one so that I can demonstrate, but I'll show you how I did that. I use this little cup that I made on the wheel. It's like a little hump mold, but you could use any kind of little bowl that you have in your house, like a little ice cream bowl or something like that. So take a little piece of clay, roll it out fairly thin. Then I'm going to take my little bowl and I'm going to turn it upside down like so and cut around it. And then I'm just going to soften up the edges like that. Sponge. And then I'm going to take this, I'm going to press it inside this little bowl. That really gently. So you don't really want to stretch the clay so much, it's just kind of push it down in there. And it doesn't have to go all the way down inside. You might want to use a sponge. Can you see that? Yeah. Or you can use a rib. Just get your rib wet and kind of press down like that. So ideally it's just sort of consistent all the way around, even if it doesn't go to the bottom of the bowl. If you start off a little bit thicker, it's okay to stretch it a little more. If you don't start it off thick enough, I wouldn't stretch it too much. And then I'm just gonna go around the edge like this. Stretch that a little more. And then see how mine got a little uneven? That's okay, you can just kind of pop it out and move it around so it's right on the edge of the bowl. Okay, then we'll leave that to dry a little bit. In the meantime, we'll make the top. So, I'm gonna start off with another piece of clay that's sort of long and thin. So how wide this is going to determine how tall your cup is here from the cup part, from the bowl part to the top. So this is about 3 inches, I think. And then also you have to figure out how long you need your slab to be. So what I do is just kind of take my little form here. And put a string around it like that. And I know it needs to be about that long, which is about 12 inches, I believe. So I'll just mark that red line. And pretty thin, so like 1/4 inch or less. So I'm just gonna lay this on here. If you want to put a texture on here, you could, or I like to draw on it later. So I'm just gonna cut a straight line here. Okay, and then I'm gonna do my cool little trick with my bevel tool. So I'll cut this edge at a bevel. Oops. I'll score a little bit, and then I'll flip the whole thing over. This edge with a bevel. Score it. I'm going to score this bottom edge, so that's where it's going to attach to my little cup. And then on the top, I'm going to take my sponge, get it a little bit wet, and just kind of smush this edge to make it nice and smooth and rounded. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and put this together. So I'm going to roll it into a cylinder like that, and just barely tack it together and see if it fits. It's a little tiny bit long, so we're going to cut it down a little bit. Cut my bevel again. And I'm just overlapping that bevel so it's coming together like that. Push it together. And then I check it again. And that looks pretty good. So I'm going to seal that up. If you have a little pony roller, this little thing works really great for this. Just support it on the inside. Smooth that seam. You can flip it over and do the other side. I'm going to score this edge. This is my bottom edge. And this is fairly stiff because I built it this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and score that. If this isn't really stiff, you can leave it in the little pot when you attach it. I'm just going to push that slab in a little bit to make it fit right. And it seems like it's pretty well lined up. And you can take the top and just kind of really squish it on there. Wouldn't hurt to take paddle and kind of paddle it a little bit. You can use a wooden spoon or something like that if you don't have a paddle. A ruler works. Okay, so if you want to, you can take your rib and scrape over that edge, but I like this little line that this creates right here, so I just leave it. Just really make sure it's squished together, and then I'm gonna pick this up, flip it over, and you can see I have a little seam on the inside. You probably want to get rid of that, so I'll use a little wooden tool, maybe something like this. Get it wet and just kind of squish that seam on the inside. If you feel like it's not well attached, you can always put a little coil of clay in there. It's probably a good idea, I'll do that. So take a little piece of this clay, roll it into a really skinny little coil. You don't need much clay, so make it really skinny. Like a real skinny earthworm. Get it wet. You're gonna shove that into that seam. I'll show you in a sec. how I kind of laid that in there. And then I'm just gonna take my finger, push it around a little bit into that crevice. Okay, so once you kind of get it pushed into the seam where you want it, and use your little wooden tool and just kind of drag that clay. If it's soft, this will be easy. Drag it across that seam like that just to fill it up. I got that all smushed in there, and I took my little rubber rib and I just got it wet and just kind of went over that surface to make it, oops, to make it nice and smooth in there. Voila. Now, I'm just gonna work on my lip here a little bit. I get my fingers wet and just sort of pinching it, making it nice and smooth. And this is, you can do this when it's done too. Okay, so now we need a foot. So I'm gonna take this, put it back in my little bowl for a minute while I work on this foot. To do the foot, I'm just gonna make kind of a little bit bigger coil, but as even as you can get it, like that. And then take the roller, roll it flat. Gonna make that into a little circle. Let's see if that's about the right size. It'll work. So I'm just gonna whack it on either side just to make it kind of flat and even on both sides. And then I'll just roll it into a circle. Cut it so the edges are beveled. Score both pieces. So this is just like making the top of your cup, except smaller. A tiny piece of clay right there to make that more even. So all these things you can smooth, get rid of the lines, but I don't mind those lines. I kind of like the way that shows the maker's hand, so I leave them on there. Okay, now I'm gonna take this, turn it upside down, and attach my foot. Make sure you get it centered before you stick it on there. And I just draw myself a little line around the inside. So I know where to put. Oh, jeez. So I know where to put it. Sometimes that happens. if you want to, you can add a little coil in that space. Wow, that's completely uneven. Holy cow. Oh my God. There, that looks like it's in the center. Kinda. Okay, just make sure this is really well attached here. And again, I like this line, so if I'm gonna add a coil, I'll add it right here. Okay, and then real quick, I'll show you my candle. Make sure this is round before you walk away from it. Okay, so I'm just gonna make a coil that's sort of pointed on one end like this. And I like to get it wet and kind of stretch it a little bit. I feel like this makes it a little stronger, a little more compressed. So I'm just kind of pinching it between my finger and my thumb like that, stretching it. And then I'm going to roll it a little bit just to make it kind of flat on two sides. I'm going to take it like this and decide how big I want it to be. Slightly smaller than that, then I'll lay it on the table and cut it at an angle like that. Maybe like that. And that's where it's going to attach my pot. I like to attach it right on the seam here. So I'll score there. I know this is going to go right down here. Put this up on there. And I'm going to support it on the inside and push that bottom part of my handle on. Really squish it on there. I'm kind of going like that on the inside to really smush it on. And then I'll take this guy, curl it around. And then just decide if you like the way that looks. You might have to move it around if it looks weird. And I'll score this. Score right here. There you go, it's done. Later you can go back and draw on the surface if you want to, or carve into it, or paint it with slip.